Hello everyone, this is Tomas Bumbulevičius aka Tam10 on the mic, and we are here at the season finale for Karma Experiments, MTB Karma, Karma MTB, however we want to call it, the best MTB race series in Lithuania. So organizers made sure that the last race of the season is going to be a huge, unfortunately not huge by terms of how many participants registered for the race, but organizers Julius Griškevičius, Žilvinas Naujalis, as well as Saulius Speičys made sure to prepare exceptional lap for the race. So the sport group was going for 2 laps, which in total was around 32 kilometers, while all the others participated for 16 kilometers. One lap had somewhere around 600 meters of elevation, which is a lot for Lithuania. And in front you can see that the guy from Velorati took the empty space, which was not empty at all. There are a lot of branches on the ground, but it didn't matter for him that much. And he went in front. And you can see that he lagged quite a lot. And that caused not the best start for me this time around. And thanks for him that he actually unleashed that energy out of me and anger, which was good. So as usual, it was very great idea by organizers to make sure that we are not go straight into a single track, because in this type of race, single tracks are kind of single tracks, and that's kind of it. There is no room to overtake if you go into those. So that was a very good idea to leave some space for everyone to decide their placement before reaching the single tracks. And unfortunately, that poor start caused me to open the gap between the front guys. I'm not going to say that I would have maintained their speed, because Justinas Bėkša is from another level. Pavlovas Justinas is also a bit too far away in terms of his speed. So for some reason, whoever is named Justinas, they are flying on MTB. So yeah, maybe I should have had a different name in order to go faster, who knows. But there was also Mantas Pavliukevičius in front, because for the whole season he was participating in others group, so it was amateurs, and for this race he decided to go the same amount of laps as sports group does. And as you can see, 3 minutes into the race and there are none of them. So I'm the main locomotive on this single track, and far from behind there are all the other guys. So to add something about this race in general, I haven't done recce of this course, mostly because I didn't have much of a time for that. But in the beginning I noticed that there are some areas which are similar, and here you can see I almost fell once, and here I actually skid on the branch on the ground, and the ones who were behind me was already breathing at my back. So it's worth mentioning that for this race, because I knew it's going to have a lot of single tracks and in general complicated single tracks, I would say, so the grip and the traction was very important. You can see that going on those angular downhills is a bit tricky. So for this race I chosen 2.35 inches tires width, and it was specifically ground control on the front and fast track on the back. So the front tire was specialized, the end tire was S-Works. And what I realized very fast is that it doesn't It's not enough to put wider tire and expect that the rubber will help you on the cornering, because you have to be adapted riding on that tire. And that was the case why I slipped quite a few times before this race while training, and also it was a lesson for me on the race day too. You can see that Vladas Jurkevičius overtook me from Fakelei, and I kind of knew that he's going to be one of a few guys the which we at least could race together without opening the gap and not being able to close it. So yeah, I knew that he is very strong and powerful, and that's kind of competitor which you should be following afterwards. And behind me was Ignacas Giliauskas, let's call it this way, from Tantrinės Elektronikos Valdyba. So he is a very funny guy, and we had a chance to participate in a few races this year together. And yeah, full on board, which I'm going to upload later, will showcase why he's so funny. Here Vladas wasn't able to climb here, and he blocked us as well. So we had no other chance as to just hike the bike, and Ignas was following behind. So last year in this place, organizers didn't add those branches on the ground, and that caused front wheel to just go into it and kind of stuck. So this time that additional effort by them was very great, and we just drove through that section without any problems. And here we can see Julius Griškevičius, maestro with the photo camera, who always takes the best pictures on the race. He definitely did it this time as well. And we are climbing kind of on the first uphill, where we can meet here Kasparas Rulčys from Šiaulių Visuals, who during the whole season recorded amazing videos and did after movies after each of the race. So thanks for both of those guys for keeping the media levels high and overall sharing that footage from the side, which is very nice to have all the time. So here we missed one of the corners, but it wasn't fast, so we managed to get away from it. And after going here, I immediately remembered this place, because the course here was identical almost last year as well. And you will soon understand why I remember it nicely. So last year I was rolling here a bit faster, I guess, and whoops, things happens. But this time you could have seen that there were more trees, and overall the whole single track was a bit different, even though it's the same location, the same place on the course. So basically, whenever let's call him Ignas, the way he is actually named. So whenever we were together, we always shared some talks and chit chat. Basically, it was very good, because you just move your thoughts away from all those struggles, especially even in those complex sections where are uphills, etc. You just share some thoughts, share some comments, and it just makes your life easier. So yeah, I had around 1.2 and 1.4 of pressure in my tires, and most likely for the rear it was a bit too much with this type of tires, because I also have 30 millimeters internal width rim on the front and 28 at the back. So that kind of gives me an edge to go even less pressure.
Aš tik įspėju, kad nebūtų nusivylimų po to. Nu tu myk, kas yra? Nuo kalno reik mint, o neredėt.
Yeah, so in this type of way, we've been riding almost whole first lap with comments, shouting, joking, and all sorts of things. And here I realized that we are on the mountain hill, which I in the past never managed to go up on my own. And I said that, oh, so this is that mountain, while Ignas asked what type of mountain and what it adds to your overall performance. I said that if you go on this mountain, it adds you 10 extra watts. Well, it didn't help me because I stopped right in the first third or so I didn't manage to go there on the first lap. And here was a funny way to go over this canyon where I stopped and couldn't do anything. Basically, there was not enough speed and I just stopped in between and almost went not even sideways but front to back flip, but all went fine. And in general, so you can see we are around 40 minutes into the race already at the top bar, and from that point a lot of downhills and even more uphills began to make our lives a bit of a suffer. The good thing going with Ignas on the first lap was because I didn't knew the second part of the race at all, the second part of the lap. So he kind of sometimes guided me through what's going to be in front. So for example, if we go on the very steep downhills, he says that there will be a corner on the left or whatever. So that kind of helped me to navigate on the course without much looking at those arrows. However, of course, I was looking at them as well, and the organizers did a great job to mark off the course, and it's probably one of the best markups we ever had, even though they were always great. But here I just, even though you go on a single track and it looks like you are going into nowhere, those arrows were placed right where you need it, and there was almost none time when you just look around or frighten yourself whether you are in the right area or not. I knew that after the race. I figured out that one guy managed to lost, and he lost a lot of time, so basically he just went a wrong way, and the ones who were going one lap, it was definitely a bit harder for them because there was no that much of the single track rolliness from other riders, and whenever I was going on the second lap, it was a lot clearer where to go. And here Ignas informed me that this is going to be a huge one. And from the camera you can't see it, but actually it was the way that once you at the top of a downhill, you don't see anything what's going in that middle section, because there was a root on the ground, and then there was like a small drop, but it's nothing major. So if you go fast enough, you would jump from it, but if you roll it at medium speed, It's just steep, and that's kind of it. On the full onboard, you will definitely have a lot more sense of the segments information. Here I just did it cut at the at the right places in some cases. So yeah, this also applies for data of watts. It wasn't anything legendary during this race, but there were some exceptional numbers too. And this was probably one of the most complex uphills, because they're angular on the roots, etc., non-rolling. So yeah, it was complex. And Julius Griškevičius here gave me a hand and pushed me from the back. And he also said here that this will make my data incorrect, because, well, I was moving faster than the data shows. But thankfully, Julius, it was only a single moment during the race. Once I noticed this uphill, I said some explicit words in the language I shouldn't use at all, but it was indeed very steep with some corners, etc. And on the right you could have seen Kaspar Šulčys as well. So yeah, in English, Šernai would mean hogs, and that's the way how the course is named. It's because there are a lot of hogs living in this area of Vilnius forests. So you could have seen there were a lot of holes in the ground where hunters put probably some of the food for hogs. So yeah, I almost hit into one of those. And this uphill, even though in last year I sometimes managed to go on there, sometimes not, this year I managed to go there without stoppage, and that was nice thing to do, because you know that maybe you are getting stronger throughout the years. And here I took the footage from Vaidas Dabrila. Thanks for him for capturing it. I just felt good, made a jump, and eventually it appeared that someone was filming. So here I felt very great, even though one more lap was remaining. So you can see that I finished first lap in somewhat around 1 hour and 16 minutes or so. And on the second lap, Ignas decided to rest a bit, and he said, "Bye-bye, Thomas, good luck on your effort alone." So that's kind of solo ride until I die, or however it's called in the song. But here you can see how last year it looked like, even though this part of the course last year was a bit more wet. In general, this year's course was more wet in all the other places, so most likely it's because that canyon was just wet throughout the whole summer last year, and this year it was drier, but at the same time a few days ago it rained a bit, and that was the reason why the whole course was a bit more wet. But it was rolling perfectly, and that was no issues at all. So going alone in these uphills normally would look like a huge suffering, but for some reason, maybe because I didn't push too much in the first lap, I'm not going to say that I haven't tried at all, but here you could have seen that I hit something with the bottom bracket, and I almost went off the bike. So yeah, that's the reason why in the beginning of the race, Žilvinas said that you shouldn't make any overtakes where single track does not exist. And that was very good indication that you shouldn't go even 10 centimeters out of a single track if you are expecting to stay on the bike. So yeah, continuing my thought about the effort, it was definitely a hard one to go on those uphills, but at the same time, for some reason the mind was clear, it was empty of all the casual noise which usually goes during these type of races where like it's very hard, I can't take it anymore, whatever. There was no such thoughts, and that was a good thing to experience. Probably that was the reason why I kind of enjoyed the whole race a lot. And it happens definitely not very often. So on the first lap I hit the ground here on this area, so here I decided to be a bit more safety, turn on that safety trigger. Yeah, so I knew that Vladas Jurkevičius is going behind me, and I even saw him in one section where we was close to each other, so I knew that I have to push on the uphills as much as possible if I want to not allow him to get closer to me. Here I drifted a bit, but all went fine. So that was kind of my strategy. Make sure to put as much as possible effort on the climbs and avoid going off a bike. And this uphill, last year I tried to go here like 3 or 4 times. None of the times I managed to climb here, even though it was even better conditions. So here you can see the footage from last year's race where I just pushed the bike. Also, the Mantas Pavliukevičius behind me, who now was also running very strong, and he was in front of me. So that was a good indication that we are moving at the right direction this year. And even though last year we've been participating in only 1 lap distance and it was extremely hard, this year we're moving at 2 laps, and we're doing more than okay, I would say. And here you can see that I'm averaging 500 watts on the uphill, and here is yet another uphill, and you probably wonder how I managed in some cases stay on the bike. And probably one of the main reasons, a part of the thing that this year I already have like 120 kilometers of elevation or so. Additional aspect of my climbing here is that I added 32 oval on the bike, and it's worth mentioning that if you are going to choose ovals, keep in mind that their ovality differs from the manufacturers. And that's the thing which I realized not too far ago. And for this particular race, I chosen Garbaruk's 32 teeth oval. And the reason why I decided to try something different apart from Absolute Black is because it was out of stock at Velanova at the time I was ordering. And also I noticed that the teeth on Garbaruk's oval chain ring is a bit higher. So that means because I this season had few cases where chain dropped out of a chain ring, I decided that, well, it might be a good time to test something else instead of Absolute Black. And so far so good, but definitely there was no muddy conditions. And here you can see that on the first lap I managed to do this segment at 4:26, while on the second lap it was more like 5 minutes. So I was riding a bit slower, but here you could have heard that I asked the guys who were either just making sure the course is closed if anyone rides while the car wants to pass by. But I asked how much is in front to the guy in front, and he said like 5 minutes. So that should have been Mantas Pavliukevičius. And here you can see that I cut the corner a bit to the left, but that was even less rolling than actual trajectory, so that was not the best choice. So yeah, they said that it's around 5 minutes, but I noticed Mantas in the section where it was one single track towards the other, that he is not that far away, but it was like 2 minutes or so. So I understood that nope, I'm not going to catch him on this race. And whenever you go in this area, you know that the only thing is left is just to go on this uphill, and that's few kilometers, even less than a few kilometers at the top, and you are good to go to the finish. However, here I noticed that lockout completely disappeared and I was not able to lock it, so I'm going here fully open on this uphill, and it's bouncing a lot. And here I finally slipped over and was not able to climb through, but I decided to just go on the bike and continue here. But the thing is that Vladas Jurkevičius might have been very close to me, and I was always taking a look through the shoulder in case he is not coming after me. But thankfully I managed to keep that effort, and he wasn't closing the gap, at least to the finish. And yeah, going at fully open full suspension bike is a misery. So eventually it appeared to be that the handle just loosened out and all is fine with my bike. So here I'm crossing the finish line, as usually, putting some effort, some jumping, and that's it. So that was one of the best experiences this season in terms of the overall feeling and the course. So thanks a lot for guys from Karma Experiments to making sure that this race happened. And thanks for ordering great weather during the time of the race. So first of all, thanks for everyone for participating and competing and having all those chit chats after the race. It's very great atmosphere here in Karma Experiments. And of course, thanks for organizers for staying on the map of MTB racing in Lithuania. And we are very much hopeful that this is going to continue as the years goes by. That was it. This is Karma Experiments 2022 end of the season, and we will still meet at some point this year somewhere. I'm pretty sure about that. Thanks for the time, and until next.